The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Get involved with Access Fort Wayne and make your own television programming. Call 421-1250 to find out more.
Welcome to Wesley TV. Here at ChristmasFest, my special guest is, well, I'll have him explain himself to you guys who he is. Sorry, I'm hypnotized. I'm excited. Here's my guest. So tell people a little about yourself.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Oh, not a problem.
So I'll tell you who I am. It's for your audience who may not know. My name is William Steele. I have a TV show on A&E Network called Inmate to Roommate, one of the top reality shows in the country right now. And Inmate to Roommate is about people getting out of prison and rebuilding their life with people they don't know. So I served 18 years for nonviolent crimes, and while I was incarcerated, changed a lot of things, went to college, took some college courses, wrote some books, and started having ideas for what I wanted to do, get out and help people through my experiences. Well, getting ahead of myself, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. And I grew up with a mentally ill mother, middle-class neighborhood. It was a lot of Italian, Jewish neighborhood. But my mother was mentally ill, and she was picked on by bullies sometimes, And so I found myself always defending my mother, around the neighborhood, and being pretty much a loner because I didn't trust people that would pick on the mentally ill, and my reaction to that. So I pretty much was a loner, and that stuck with me all my life, wanting to defend women, especially the mentally ill. So I wanted to be like, it's kind of like a James Bond type character, like Mission Impossible from the 60s or James Bond, a guy who can pull off anything, get in and out of anything, but I wanted to do it for the greater good, to help people. And so fast forward, I was in real estate. I worked in a real estate firm. I was going to college, but I decided to take a course in New York City at a locksmithing school, learning locksmithing, safes, and alarms. Well, I took that course, graduated top of my class, and I opened an alarm company. I was working at another locksmith shop across from the World Trade Center, the old towers at the time before they went down. And I was doing a lot of master keying, a lot of installing of alarm systems. And I was kind of dabbling in a few illegal things, I guess, but not really a lot. But there came a time when my best friend, Sammy, got killed in a car accident. And I don't drink, I don't smoke weed, I don't get high. But I looked up some friends to tell them about Sammy's death, and they were doing coke. And so they offered me some because I was very depressed about Sammy's passing, because I was supposed to have driven him the night before to a nightclub, and I passed. I stood him up. So I felt really guilt-stricken about that, and without getting too deep into it because it'll get me really choked up. He died, and I looked up some friends to tell them, and they were using coke, and they offered me some. And it felt good for a minute, and anyway, I got hooked on cocaine pretty bad. This is in the heat of the 80s, cocaine epidemic, crack epidemic, and all that. So I began snorting and smoking coke, freebase, whatever. And I got in over my head. I started taking my skills with locksmithing and alarms, and I started doing burglaries all across the country, South Florida, Las Vegas, California. And those turned into, I was making millions of dollars. I mean, for me, it was easy. I'm not here to, brag about my skills or my conquest. There's joy in those periods of time when you're just, you're young and you're depressed and you're suffering with, being brought up with a mentally ill parent and stuff that I wasn't acknowledging that it was bothering me. And then the guilt over my friend's death. So I was just out to have a good time. It was all about, doing what I wanted to do, doing coke, hanging out with people I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. And I just was doing burglaries all over the place, and it's free jewelry and free artwork, So traveling to the Bahamas and all over the United States. Anyway, all that lifestyle ended up in a lot of connections and meeting very prominent people in California, South Florida, including the wealthiest serial killer in American history, Robert Durst, and several other people I'm not going to get into at the moment, but then Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach. And through those connections, I was privy to some internal discussions because I was doing coke and because they saw that I was involved with a lot of illegal things that most people might not have been exposed to. And I documented a lot of those experiences. So fast forward, I ended up getting in trouble more than once, going to prison. I escaped from prison. I ended up on America's Most Wanted website. And so I just really destroyed my life, chasing, this cocaine around. But before I went in, I was even trafficking kilos. I was trafficking guns from South Florida to New York for various groups, and some very dangerous people on both ends. But I was always clean cut. I was always, a loner, so there was nobody really to tell on me. If I was going to take a trunk full of cocaine to New York, I would tell everybody I was going scuba diving in the Keys. And I'm in Fort Lauderdale at the time. Yeah. And I would tell them I'm going south to the Keys to go scuba diving. But I would park my car and get a rented car and then drive north on the interstate with all the cocaine. Everybody thinks I'm in the Keys. So nobody knew where I was. Yeah. So the only thing that can go wrong was me screwing up on the road. And other times we took Amtrak, with everything on there. Back in those days, you could take it without worrying about the dogs coming on. I think they're allowed on there now. But so all these things ended me up in prison. And, that just I'm writing a book, a full biography now, and a faith-based autobiography, telling a lot more detail. But the two books I put out, so I'm in prison, I started taking college courses. My mother, who was mentally ill, was taken advantage of by family members, and they stole $800,000 from me. So I had nowhere to go when I came out because I didn't want to go around family. They were afraid of me. And, from their point of view, rightfully so. They knew what I was capable of before I changed my life. They didn't realize I really was doing what I could to change and not be the person I was. Running around with a gun, running around with dangerous people, being able to pick up a phone call and have something done to somebody. And so they didn't realize all that, so they were afraid of me ever getting out of prison because they stole so much money from me. And but I forgive them, and I still do to this day. I'm on my feet. It's been a real struggle, but I'm trying to get on my feet. And so when I'm in prison, I started writing my autobiography. Well, HBO put a show out about Robert Durst called The Jinx, and my co-author, one of them, said to me, Gary Greenberg, he's the editor-in-chief of the Inquirer, he said, do me a favor, just write your book about experiences with Durst right now, because he's actually in the media a lot right now. I don't know if you've noticed. I said, okay. So we did the first one about Robert Durst, which is here. It's called Sex and the Serial Killer, My Bizarre Times with Robert Durst. This book is at williamsteeleauthor.com on my website. If you want to support me getting out of prison, please check it out. Buy it for the holidays for the true crime lover in your family. But this book here, there's a new cover on it, but you see Nancy Grace covered this on her podcast. So now I have a podcast. I have a true crime channel, and it's called William Steele True Crime on YouTube. I ask your viewers to subscribe. I started writing these books, and that one came out while I was still incarcerated. Prior to my release, I was blessed to have been introduced to my fiancée, Dr. Mary Bass. She's in studio with us now. And so I had a lot of loving support towards the end of my sentence where I didn't have much of anything during it. So the book was out, and then right after I met Mary, about a month and a half later, somebody said, hey, A&E Network is doing a show about releasing prisoners, getting on their feet, living with a non-family member. That's exactly my situation because of the inheritance situation in New York. I didn't want to deal with my family because it would put me in jeopardy, and they were afraid. So I decided to ask a pen pal in Elkhart, Indiana, could I, stay with you for a few months until I get on my feet? She was like, yeah, but we were writing so long, I didn't realize she developed a crush on me. So for her, it was like a no-brainer. The problem is she didn't really realize about Mary. On the one hand, she did. On the other hand, she claimed she didn't know about her. So A&E filmed me from the second, and Sharp Entertainment, thank you for giving me this chance. I appreciate it. They filmed me from the second I got out of prison, every day for months after month after month, the struggle of getting on my feet. These people were really strict Seventh-day Adventists, super judgmental towards everything I was doing.
That. When I've seen some of the footage, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, like ridiculous rules posted on the wall. The guy thought it was funny to try me with like pink sheets with unicorns on it. And I looked at the room and I'm like, this has to be a joke. You guys are pranking me or something?
Yeah.
And so, he doesn't even know me, the husband. I knew they were having trouble in their marriage, but I didn't know how bad it was. But I was like, okay, you're not letting me have house guests anyway, So I don't give a damn. I was in prison sleeping in the bed. I'm appreciative for what I have. I'll still be able to sleep in peace, but it's kind of, insulting. But so they thought it was all funny. Their jokes were funny and good, but every time my New York humor or my New York sarcasm came out, that was sinful. In their book, it was a sin. So I'm a Christian, but you know what? I'm taught, my version of Christianity is, I hate the sin, but I love the sinner.
Yeah.
I love all people until you treat me or somebody around me like crap. So their version is like, if you're not that faith, which was almost like a cult, it felt like a cult-like indoctrination into their faith.
It seemed like it, because when I was watching, I was like, man, they're really strict. I mean,
yes,
they need to lighten up and have a little bit of fun, but they were all
Nope.
serious in business. I'm like,
yeah, I don't even know why they agreed to come on the show because they don't watch TV. And so
I didn't know that.
They were warned that a docuseries reality show could make people look really, really, out of character and bad. And I said, we're supposed to be Christians and getting along, yet you're doing all these horrible things to me on camera. And they came out looking like crap, but I came out looking great because I held my tongue. And, I think one time she kept coming on to me. She would show up at nighttime when her husband went to work. And I told her, it's just cameras everywhere. And I couldn't believe I said it now, but looking back, I'm kind of glad I did. Because a lot of the footage that we filmed, I didn't know what was going to make it in until I saw it with everybody else in the country.
yeah.
And one of the scenes, I told her, look, I'm engaged to Mary. You're married. This is inappropriate. Get out of my room. I said, and don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And this is her house,
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is. They kept giving my fiance a hard time and trying to break us up for various reasons. So I was trying to write more books while I was there, and I couldn't. They wouldn't let me use the internet to do any kind of research. I couldn't type. I couldn't unpack my stuff because there was always this threat of them, are they putting me out or not? Am I going to have to move out sooner than we agreed? And then they tried to charge me for staying there when they had told their church it was a mission house and they were helping guys one at a time get on their feet for no charge. And the church was chipping in with a little bit of food and everything. God bless the pastor of that church. He was a nice guy. Alex, shout out to Alex. But these people were like horrendous, worst possible example of Seventh-day Adventists I've ever met in my life. And the whole world saw it now.
Well, it didn't even help either, because I was watching clips of some of the stuff after we did the interview on my show, and then their one friend was being very judgmental. I'm like, why are you being judgmental? We're all human beings. But again, people have different aspects of humans. Again, like I said, I think we're all human. I judge people on personality, on how they treat me.
Right.
Before, but again, like I said, people are so judgmental nowadays, and she was just being straight up judgmental. Yep. It was like, give the guy a chance.
You're speaking about Alicia. Alicia
yeah, I think that's what
was on another prison show. She did, I think it was, 8 years? And whatever it was. And, she was on the show about women in prison with her girlfriend the whole time. So now she's a holier-than-thou Christian, I think. I don't know. And she's got a husband involved with law enforcement. So now she's involved with all these things, and she represented to help me many times, but only when the cameras were around. She gave me books and journals and stuff for getting on your feet after incarceration, dealing with addiction and all this, and for the cameras.
Yeah.
And then when I follow up with her, she could never take a call. She was always too busy. She was going to round me up some gift cards or whatever to get on my feet to buy some clothes. Those never materialized. They disappeared. Then clothes she was supposed to bring me like 4 months later, a couple of plastic trash bags full of clothes. They were all like for a 10-year-old boy. And I'm like, Alicia, I'm like, kind of overweight man, can't fit into the clothes you brought. Oh, just donate them to some other church. And I'm like, but she was really good about offering assistance, and like she really cared about everybody when the cameras were around. But
one of those
God bless her, but I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. And unfortunately, parole and my lawyers had to get involved in that because she was just doing so much to undermine me. And here I was doing all the right things, and she just kept trying to undermine me. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why you don't know the whole story? You think you know the people I'm living with because you know them from prison ministry? You don't live with them. Their own kids don't talk kindly about these people.
Wow.
They all fled the house. I think one is still in that faith, but the rest of them, they don't want anything to do with them. They're super controlling. They don't get it. Their way or the highway, and they're mean to people.
It shouldn't
Anyway,
be like that. Sorry about that. I know
So so I had that opportunity. So after I was out a while, I finished up this book here. I don't know if we can see this on camera or not. So this is Ghislaine, Sensational and Impure. It's about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. You'll find this at williamsteeleauthor.com and on Amazon. So that's a book about me knowing for a period of time Ghislaine Maxwell. And in there I actually name names, and names that have never been publicized before. That book has been covered, it was a New York Post, The Sun, National Enquirer. Several publications have put it out there, but now that the social media companies, getting their foot off everybody's necks recently, I think a lot more is going to come out, and I think there's going to be more cooperation and more people that were involved with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein getting locked up. So that's what we do now. I do crime victim advocacy. If you guys want to follow me, go to William Steele True Crime on YouTube and on Rumble. Subscribe. I want to build my channel up. And so this is just a little graphic that I signed this for fans. I don't know if you can get this on camera here. So this here is a publicity sheet that I autographed. That's a driving scene where I was learning how to drive, for the first time, and I was a getaway driver back in the day. So I put Mark, the homeowner and owner of the car, through a hell of a wild ride.
I remember that.
And this is the rules that were on my wall right here when I walked in. I still own this. That's screen use on the show, one of the most popular reality shows in the country. And incredibly, this show, Inmate to Roommate, on TikTok, I just noticed the other day, has 10.9 million views.
Wow.
My fan pages have tens of thousands of fans, and there's millions of fans overall. But I'm flattered, and I know that I'm obligated to use the platform I have to help people. We're helping people that were wrongfully incarcerated, like Dr. Leslie Marlin Scholl. Dr. Scholl was entrapped by a fake federal informant after the guy ripped him off. So I think you said that he could come on your show as well. But
yeah.
So go to Facebook and say hello to Dr. Scholl, like Clear Dr. Scholl on Facebook. Tell him, William Steele sent you. But so we're working with Dave Reinhardt in California. Everybody please look up freedavereinhardt.com. This man had his inheritance ripped off, several $100 million, and his family had him falsely arrested, put in prison for 56 years. So we're trying to help Dave get free, and we're trying to help Dr. Scholl get his good name back.
So you also, like you said, you're trying to have people on your show as well. So for instance, if I wanted to be a guest, how could I do that?
If anybody wants to be a guest, if you have an inspirational story, crime victims especially, law enforcement, we want to have you on. Celebrities, guys who got out of prison, turned their life around, and really are like doing something to help kids, or drug programs, or writing books, or making movies. I'm going to be having Cyril DePazio on. He made Mob King. Mob King is going to be a huge movie. He let me do the review of this movie. This man did a ton of time in prison. He owned his famous nightclub in South Beach. And so this movie just now got picked up in Hollywood, and it's going to be released soon. So, yeah, I'm looking for guests all the time if you know people in this community. Right now, I'm in the Fort Wayne community for more filming. I can't tell you what we're filming, a lot of it.
Which is understandable.
But a lot of it's also my true crime, my personal stuff. And we'll see what happens. I've been offered the use of a studio, a local TV studio, for an hour-long show, which I'm grateful for, and the radio station.
I have no idea what he's talking about. Oh, yeah, we're here.
Right. So your producers and the people that run this place have been very gracious, and telling me I can use the studio as well. So I just need to finalize that arrangement. And that's it. So we're coming into the holidays. This will actually be my second Christmas out in 18 years. The first one, you know, was touch and go because it was joyous to be free, but people that I love had a lot of heartache around the holidays, so they're struggling with that as I'm struggling with, you know, appreciating the holidays and trying to be respectful of the feelings of the people around me. But it's a beautiful time of year, and I still love driving around at night and checking out all the Christmas lights that I haven't seen in so many years. It's just overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot here in Fort Wayne. Did you ever see the Santa lighting over here off of Main Street?
No, I've only been here, you know, like 2 weeks, if that.
Oh, wow. So how long do you plan on being in Indiana? I mean, I know you can't say.
I'm not allowed to say.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, never mind then. Let's just say he's enjoying Indiana.
Yeah.
We'll say that much.
Yeah, we go to California to film. We go to New York, South Florida. We go everywhere to film. So.
Wow. So this guy is everywhere. Check him out. Guy's a class act. The guy is very laid back. If you want to have him on your show, just let him know, because he's, like I said, he's a very good guy to have on the show. Anything to say before we go?
Did it go that quick?
Yeah.
Did it? Man, you talk a lot.
I know, right? It's crazy though. Normally as a host, I talk a lot, but it's kind of cool when actually the guests get to talk more than I do. Because again, like I said, I treat my shows as, I mean, this isn't my show, but I treat my shows as, hey, you're my guest. Camera's all yours. Some people I have to talk to, but sometimes I'm just cool just listening.
That's what I try to do. I had a great guest on. He went about 3 hours over the course of several interviews. Tim McBride. Look for my interview with Tim McBride. Tim McBride was the most prolific marijuana smuggler, basically in the history of the United States in the 70s and 80s in South Florida. Hundreds of tons of marijuana coming over the ocean. He went to prison, turned his life around, wrote a book about it. What's it called? Saltwater Cowboys. And now they're getting ready to do a movie and a screenplay. But he's one of my best guests, Tim McBride. One of my other big guests that I have on all the time is Ignacio Esteban. He just retired from ATF. He was a federal law enforcement agent, and he and his colleagues knew exactly who I was in my heyday when I was doing illegal things. And now the world has changed. I've turned my life around. He's retired, and now he's a frequent guest on my show. He's written 52 books.
Wow.
So we just did one about this crazy deal that Biden did to free a mass murderer, arms trafficker for a basketball player.
I've seen, you sent me something about
In what universe does this make sense? Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, in what universe does this make sense? None. None. It's dangerous, and people are going to die as a result, unfortunately. But so it is what it is. So I'm just glad to be here. That's all I want to say. If anybody would like to, you know, support what I'm doing, post-incarceration, please check out my books at williamsteeleauthor.com and on Amazon, William Steele, 2 E's, by Glenn Maxwell and Robert Durst, and subscribe to my channels. That would be helpful. Support the guys that we're trying to help get out of prison, freedavereinhardt.com and Clear Dr. Scholl on Facebook.
Follow him. If you don't, he'll follow you. No, I'm just kidding. Just follow him. He's a great guy. Again, like I said, thank you guys for tuning in for Wesley TV at ChristmasFest. See you later, and subscribe to him or else he'll come after you. In a good way.
Interesting. Thank you again for having me.
Happy holidays from all of us at Parkview Health.
On the first day of Christmas, my Parkview gave to me a hospital in my community. On the second day of Christmas, my Parkview gave to me 2 acts of love and a hospital in my community. On the third day of Christmas, my Parkview gave to me 3 true friends, 2 acts of love and a hospital in my community. On the 4th day of Christmas, my Parkview gave to me 4 healing cures, 3 true friends, 2 acts of love and a hospital in my community. On the 5th day of Christmas, my Parkview gave to me 5 berries with wings, 4 healing cures, 3 true friends, 2 acts of love and a hospital in my community. On the 6th day of Christmas, my Parkview gave to me 6 nurses sleighing, 5 berries with wings, 4 healing teenage screaming, 7 trainers reading, 6 nurses swaying, 5 medics with wings, 4 healing cures, 3 true friends, 2 acts of love, and a hospital in my community. On the 10th day of Christmas, my park you gave to me. 10 Texas sweeping, 9 doctors dancing, 8 teenage swimming, 7 trainers reading, 6 nurses swaying, 5 medics with wings, 4 healing cures, 3 true friends, 2 acts of love, and a hospital in my community. On the 11th day of Christmas, my park you gave to me. 11 ambulance typing, 10 Texas sweeping, 9 doctors dancing, 8 teammates swinging, 7 trainers treating, 6 nurses swaying, 5 medics with wings, 4 healing cures, 3 true friends, 2 acts of love, and a hospital